Today I built a kill team for the Legion of the Damned. The idea is to start easy here and get more ridiculous towards the end using these Horus Heresy era Marines. So let's start with the Praetor. He will become a captain very soon. But for that role he seems to need a pair of arms. One with a chainsaw and one that's pointing. As it seems the Ghost Riders like to point at people somehow. A Chaos Space Marines pauldron with a skull on it because we obviously need skulls. And I get rid of the backpack snob as I want to replace it with an Osiak Bone Reaper's bit. But the pauldron was in the way, so I carefully had to remove a little bit material here until it fits. And now the Osiak Bone Reaper bit. As this one here has a more or less fitting rounding, I just glue it onto the backpack and go on with his head. Which is a skull mask, because let's keep it simple. I guess I can turn this one into a full-blown Legionnaire with a fitting paint job. And now I fire up my new toy, the Halot X1 by Creality. I have to say it's a truly one-of-a-kind machine with an amazing high resolution, and I've never experienced such a plug and play with a 3D printer, which is perfect for a lazy person like me. Using the Nova Tough water washable resin to print these flamey bits, as truth to be told, the Games Workshop range just does not have such good looking and fitting pieces at this point. I mean, look at this. And when everything was printed and cured, I cut away the backpack holding knob because Chaos, yes, Chaos Space Marines back modules have other knobs somehow. Dare us finding ways to combine them anyway. I like these Chaos Space Marine ones way more because they stick out like little wings, giving them this angel-like appearance. But maybe I painted too much Gloomspite Gits in the last week, if you know what I mean. And when that was in place, the Marine gets some Horus Heresy assault arms and this extremely cool helmet by Wargames print. And after that he obviously needed some flames, so a burning torch on his backpack is what he gets. And some smaller flames for that bolt pistol to round up his look. The next guy also gets a chainsaw and a bolt pistol. This time from a Chaos Space Marine. They have a similar size compared to the Horus Heresy Marines and I wanted to see if it also fits. And it does. I used some chaos parts because it makes the miniatures look a little more dark and gothic-like in my opinion. I included this one in the video because his chainsaw is the ideal point to have a flame placed onto it. And to show you how nice this Nova resin is. Because it can be cut and worked with like plastic without breaking apart in 1000 pieces. And no, this isn't sponsored, this is my actual opinion. I placed this flame between his neck and the back module and again tried to match the direction of the flame so it looks coherent. And now onto the third guy. He gets a Ghost Rider-like head, which was a little bit of a hassle to get onto, but green stuff made it possible. I thought if I built Legion of the Damned, I had to do a head like this. Even though it's just for one miniature. The idea was to make this one look a little bit mismatched. So one arm gets sawn in half beneath the elbow, so that the elbow guard was actually unharmed, and he got the fist of that same third-party kit. And after that he got a bolt pistol and a third arm that's holding a flame, like he's some kind of a former tech marine or something. I have to say I don't know why I did that, because it was late and maybe I was a little bit confused here. Anyway, new day and time to tackle the chonkers. First with my personal most liked armor, the Tartaros. I don't know what it is, but I just like this one. I removed the Power Fist because I want to replace it with a 3D printed one. I just had to cut away some overlapping pieces, so it looks as flat as possible After that, the arm got a blob of green stuff and was put back together with this amazing power fist holding a skull in its hand. As this piece makes me want to listen to 80s metal again, I thought it is only fitting that he presents this one in a pose that only Abaddon can match. And of course, he also gets the same Crusader helmet, as I want to keep the theme here. Now, to make this one a legit part of the kill team, maybe as a proxy for the heavy intercessor, he gets a bolt rifle where I had to cut the upper part of the pauldron away as good as possible. And again, a blob of green stuff and the bolter finds its place. And if you ask yourself why had I cut away the shoulder, that's why. Old World Chaos Knight pauldrons. These look so cool and I have a bunch of them laying around anyway, I might as well use them. As well as this flame here coming out of his leg because he hit the gym too hard. And here's the other reason I had to use the Tartaros armor. I needed an excuse to use this part here, which I had to align a little bit so it matches the rounding of the armor itself. And as you see my coffee infused hands pulling this risky move off, we can go over to the next one. Everyone knows a kill team turns into a full army at some point, and to have a nice proxy for a captain in Terminator armor, I chose a regular Saturnine bro. I just had to cut away the eagle as it does not really fit the Legion of the Damned aesthetic in my opinion. And after that I found this Ossiarch Bone Reaper bit from the unit I cannot pronounce and cut away the ribs. I glued these ribs onto the Saturnine frame and I know these are not really accurate, but they just fitted better this way. And we are talking about a burning, properly loyalist demon Astartes faction, who are a fiction within the fiction. Anyway, the next part was this hammer. I had this one laying around from my other Nightlord Saturnine build, but I had to cut away the hand as the normal Saturnines only come with the left hand, which is kind of a bummer I must say. We have melee dreads but no melee Saturnine. Anyway, I also wanted to take these few seconds to welcome the newest channel members, Jarek7297 and Dante Astartes, and the newest Patreon, Sam Fellows. Thanks a lot you guys, this really means a lot to me. So after his right-held hammer became a left-held hammer, I went on with his other hand. Which is a disintegrator weapon that I will turn into a bolter, as this is a little bit closer to the actual loadout and I am not a real fan of these disintegrator weapons. I just had to cut these two beauties in half and glue them back together right in the middle. One could argue that the magazine of the bolter faces the wrong direction, but in this case the user actually sees how much ammunition he has, which is kind of intelligent if you ask me. I just needed an excuse to be lazy. And after that I glued on his tiny arms and legs. Cut away this knob and glued his way oversized pauldrons onto him. And when they were in place, I took out this overdramatic dude here and glued him onto the place where I removed the knob. Because it looks ridiculous and with that Warhammer-like. Once that was in place, he got his comparable tiny head and some flames. Again, I kept in mind to make them all face into the same direction because it just looks more coherent this way. And when that was done, it was time for their bases. I wanted these to stand a little bit higher and on a battle-worn ground, where I could place some leftover flames. So a layer of milliput was the answer here. I used a little bit of tinfoil, which helped me to get a rock-like texture. And after that I placed some various bits, like this arm holding a flame, into the ground, as I imagined that the appearance of these flamey dudes may include some other weird stuff. And when that was done, I gave these ones here a treatment of a Grellan Earth. Even though I do this on my pale jackets, I wouldn't have thought about it if I hadn't seen a video from Verdict of Plastic where he kitbashed Rylanor. So thank you for the inspiration, Verdict. And when that was done and dry, it was time for priming. I'm a strange person who primes everything that's going to be black in white and everything that's going to be white in black. But you see why now. A paint job like this is impressive but isn't actually so hard to pull off, once you know how. There are some key elements to keep in mind with a color scheme like this, and I try to explain them in the following steps. The first one is to paint your miniature like an actual flame. That's why I started with ice yellow and sun yellow towards the bottom of the miniature, and I slowly increase the amount of hot orange the further I go up to the miniature itself. And when I reach the top, I go on with scarlet and gory red, stippling and wet blending it into the other paints. I actually repeat the same steps onto that cross, seeing it as its own thing. And when everything has a more or less smooth transition, I dry brush all over the miniature with a mid-tone of hot orange. A good thing is to hit most of the miniature only with your upward movement. This should tie everything together and makes it ready for the next step, which is the exact opposite. I used a 50-50 mix of gory red and Vallejos black and dry brushed the miniature, only catching it with my downward movement. I try not to have too much paint in the bristles here. The phrase less is more is actually fitting here. And I took my time with this step, and after a few coats it looked like this. I picked out the parts that are all black and painted another stipple coat of black over it to amplify it even more. A strange but also necessary thing is to highlight the armor anyway. I picked out the darkest spots and placed a highlight there using Wolf Grey. And once that's done, I thought I'd try another thing here as well. Painting the hammer in blue, indicating an even hotter flame here. I used a watered down abyssal turquoise and turquoise to cover the entire hammer. After that I painted the deepest recesses with a watered down white, as well as the slots on the helmet. And while the hammer dries, I painted the skeleton and the ribcage with a coat of Rakat flesh, and after that the hammer gets a dry brush of abyssal turquoise and dark sea blue in a 50-50 mix. The only thing left to do here was the ground, which got a 50-50 mix of fire and dark earth. And after that I smudged on a little bit of mordant earth, waited for everything to dry and called it done. And here we have them. A truly unique kill team ready for action and a captain if this is going to be a combat patrol. I hope we get some real Legion of the Damned in the future, and I am very excited how Big James will make them appear. I have to say I had much fun creating these, even though kit bashing multiple miniatures is a little more time consuming, but painting them was an absolute joy, as I as well haven't done anything like this before and you don't want to see the first tries. I thought having them represented as Heresy era Marines fits them the best, and giving them these unique helmets is just a matter of taste. And by the way, I included all the artists and their websites as well as the Halot X1 in the links down below for you to check out. But I'm afraid that's it for today, and if you like this video and content like this, I'd love to encourage you to subscribe and use the hype function, as it really helps the channel grow. And we are going to see each other in the next one.